myself. My name is Ben Fabian. I teach AP US Government and Politics at Douglas Freeman High School in Richmond, Virginia. I'm also a We the People mentor teacher for the state of Virginia, and I am going to let the judges now introduce themselves. So judges, take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome you to Unit 4. This is actually our last session. But my name is Jackie Viana. I work in Miami-Dade. I'm the supervisor for Miami-Dade County Public Schools Law Programs, and I'm super excited to be here. Now, the other judges are going to introduce themselves.
Yes, my name is Joe Stewart. I'm a professor of political science at Clemson University in South Carolina. Very much looking forward to us having a conversation. Relax, we're just going to have a conversation. You've been studying the Constitution. We need to learn from you what you have learned about political parties. So thank you for participating.
I'm Diana Owen. I'm a political science professor from Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. And congratulations on participating in the National Invitational. I'm also very excited to start our discussion.
Wonderful. Thank you, judges. If you guys can please introduce yourselves and introduce your wonderful teacher.
Hi, I'm Reese Brown, and I'm in 8th grade.
Hi, I'm Patrick Witten. I'm in 8th grade.
Hi, I'm Gabby, and I'm also in 8th grade.
Hi, I'm Rosamthila Raja. I'm in 8th grade, and these are our teachers, Mike Wazelinki and Susan Cleveland.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Okay, what's going to happen now is I'm going to read the question to you. You guys are going to have, as you know, 4 minutes to answer the question, and then we're going to have 6 minutes for follow-up questions. Okay? Good luck, everyone. So Unit 4, was the Constitution used to establish our government? How was our Constitution used to establish our government? Here goes the question. Contemporarily, political scientists suspect that democratic politics is fundamentally unworkable without parties and partnership. Parties connect the ordinary citizen to government and politics and offer them broad policy choices. Do you agree or disagree? Given some founders were concerned about political parties, how did political parties develop? In what ways, if any, does the American two-party system promote liberty and the common good? And what are the advantages and disadvantages of a multi-party system practiced in democratic republics around the world? You may begin.
As a panel, we believe that our democracy would not be possible without political parties. As political scientist E. Schneider observed in 1942, modern democracy is unthinkable save in terms of parties. Without competing parties, voters lack meaningful choices. Partisan conflict is necessary for democracy because one-party politics is not democracy, it's totalitarianism.
The competition gives parties incentives to respond to voters, and losing parties keep winning parties accountable by threatening to take away their supporters. Parties mobilize citizens to win elections, bringing many otherwise apathetic citizens into politics. They bind citizens together in a common purpose, providing collective energy for a functioning democracy.
In Federalist Papers number 9 and 10, Hamilton and Madison respectively wrote about the dangers of domestic political factions. Washington was not affiliated with a political party and hoped they would not form fear and conflict and stagnation. While Hamilton and Madison had written against parties, they eventually found themselves at the core of the first party system.
The first two parties in the new republic were the Federalists led by Hamilton and the Democratic Republicans led by Madison and Jefferson. The second party system emerged in 1828 after the Democratic Republican Party splintered. The Federalists had already disappeared as they failed to support the War of 1812. The Whig Party and the Democratic Party emerged as the two parties of this era.
The Whigs supported a strong executive, while the Democrats supported a strong legislative. The Whig Party collapsed in the 1850s largely due to an intra-party split on the Kansas-Nebraska Act, but also due to a decline in leadership and the waning importance of some unifying economic issues. The third party system emerged in 1854 with the new anti-slavery Republican Party and the Democrats.
These two parties would remain the major parties in U.S. politics. Ideologically, there was a shift as Democrats moved towards liberalism and Republicans edged towards conservatism in the 1930s. The American two-party system promotes liberty and the common good. Historically, the two-party system has tended to have both parties lean towards moderation.
While this may not seem accurate currently, it has kept parties in the past seeking common ground to appeal to the broadest possible base. In a two-party system, a broad range of interests must also be considered. Candidates
While some might desire repeal of the Second Amendment, others don't want their guns taken away. Revisiting gun control and applying new restrictions is a compromise between the two and helps serve the common good while still honoring individual liberties. Finally, the two-party system can focus on long-term processes and goals which emphasize the common good and liberty without worrying about flavor of the week or third, fourth, or fifth parties emerging.
Multi-party systems, as an alternative to the two-party system, have many strengths and challenges. The two-party system, winner takes all, which is the system in the US, an example being the Electoral College, means that if a presidential candidate wins 51% of the vote in a state, all the votes in that state go to that candidate, disregarding the other parties in that run. In a multi-party system, the majority wins, but the other votes are not disregarded.
debates tend to be very black and white in a two-party system, whereas in a multi-party system, finer points of the issue could be brought to light. Partisanship is less prominent in a multi-party system. Oftentimes, the victorious party has to form a coalition and therefore must work with multiple groups to achieve common goals, as opposed to the two-party system where, generally speaking, one side puts itself against the other.
The multi-party system caters to significantly more people's values and beliefs. In a two-party system, you're either on one side or the other. There is no middle ground. Disadvantages of a multi-party system include difficulty in deciding who to vote for, more candidates who may not be qualified for office, a less effective government, and a more complicated election process. We are now open for questions.
Thank you, everyone. I am going to ask you the first question. What opportunities for political participation do political parties afford to ordinary citizens?
An opportunity that every citizen has is to throw a rally for a political party or candidate you're looking at in an election. You can attempt to help that party gain supporters by throwing a rally, explaining your beliefs and support for that party.
Does anybody else have any answer regarding to that? So rallies are great, but you also spoke about the different, the diversity, the polarization of the two political parties, one more conservative and so forth. What topics, what issues do you think these political parties stand for, and how is that participation tied up to those topics, to those issues?
The Liberal Party cares a lot about rights of minority groups, including immigrants, undocumented and documented, people of color, and women's rights, specifically regarding abortions, which is something that the conservative, currently the Republican Party, does not take as much into account when they focus on Second Amendment rights.
Meanwhile, the Conservative Party thinks more economically. They want a succeeding economy and will do whatever it takes to get that.
I agree with my panelmate that when people are leaning towards the right, they think more economically and choose to think more of just the people of America.
You mentioned the Electoral College and the fact that most states have a winner-take-all system for getting electors. There's a Supreme Court case coming forward looking at when electors decide to vote for someone other than who they're pledged to vote for, can the states fine them? I'm not asking you to decide the case, even though you're all qualified to be on the Supreme Court. How would that play a role in political parties? Should states be able to bind their electors to vote or who they're pledged to vote for?
I personally believe that people in the Electoral College should vote the way their state says so. I believe this because that is representing the state and the people in the state instead of just the individual on the Electoral College.
I agree with my panel mate. I believe that it represents the uniqueness of the state.
I also agree with my panel mates in the sense that they were elected to represent their states, so they should be able to do that.
Adding on to my panel mates, I believe that the elector was elected to represent that one party, and they should represent that party.
The counter argument to this would be that if that person was elected, that means these people put some kind of trust in that person, and that person should be able to make the decision of what they think is right and best for their people.
Diana, you're muted.
I'd like to ask you about third parties. Hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So you gave a very interesting characterization of third parties as being third party flavor of the week. And so to me, that kind of gives a sense that of a negative view of third parties. Are there any good reasons for having a third party? Any positive reasons why a third party might be formed?
Recently there has been a lot of unaffiliated voters. Recently there's been a lot of unaffiliated voters, and in the sense that if there were a third party, that could give those unaffiliated voters a place to go.
Also, if there's a third party, people might associate their beliefs with that third party more than either Democrat or Republican, and might feel that that third party represents them better than either Democrat or Republican can.
To add on to my panel mates, if there was a third party, people might feel more represented by that party and feel more like they want more to get involved in political parties.
Wonderful. You talked a little bit about rallies. Rosam, I think you mentioned that that's a way of political participation through political parties. Have you been able to, maybe anybody else, add any type of other political participation that political parties allow the ordinary citizen?
Another way citizens can contribute to political parties is helping fund the campaign of political candidates whose morals they agree with.
Okay.
With political parties, people may feel more inclined to be involved in politics because they feel like they have to represent their political party.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, good job.
So what we're gonna do now is we're going to give you some feedback, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and start. I wanna commend the entire team for participating during these difficult times. I know we're in the middle of a pandemic and you guys have been preparing yourselves. At the same time, I wanna thank your wonderful teachers for allowing you to participate and for helping you to be ready to participate. I want to start by saying that I really enjoy how you, the four of you, it's a little different than other teams, but you guys, each one of you went several times during the 4-minute presentation, and you guys were right on point talking about the history of political parties. You mentioned about different advantages and disadvantages of the two-party system. I also know that you mentioned the Electoral College and the benefits and the disadvantages of that as well. And when I asked my question, the second time that I asked my question is because I wanted you to add, because you had mentioned different ways of political participation in political parties, but I wanted you to expand on that. And you guys did that on the second time. I like how, let's say Rosam started talking about it, and then Patrick would jump in and add to it, and then the rest of you, Gabriel and Reese, also jump in and gave feedback on the different topics. So well done. Congratulations. I want to encourage you to continue learning about our wonderful Constitution in ways that you can participate in the political process. Well done. Kudos to you. You're in middle school. I can only see what you guys are going to do in high school. So congratulations.
Yes, let me add to that. Thank you. Three things stood out to me about your presentation. I thought the real strength was in the history of the party system, that you've clearly gotten a handle on that and how this party system has evolved from the George Washington saying we shouldn't have it, very quickly having a party system and how it's developed. The second thing that stood out to me, you mentioned one of my favorite political scientists, E. Schatzsnyder, he had a lot of great insights on these type of institutions, parties and interest groups, and you noted him appropriately. The third thing I liked was how you tied it in to aspects of American government that where it's really important, the Electoral College, and the idea of the winner-take-all system, which all states except Nebraska and Maine have, is something that, as people talk about reforms in the Electoral College, I think we may continue to see some discussion about that. But pay attention to that Supreme Court case that's coming up, because it is one of the few times that I think the court has been called on to actually make a decision that's perhaps related to it. And it really has to do with powers. And in this case, how states allow parties to have control over their powers too. But I thought you did a really good job in representing your school. And thank you so much for persisting through this pandemic and continuing your studies. Thank you.
I agree with my colleagues. I thought you did a really wonderful job with both your presentation, and I was especially impressed with your responses in the Q&A. I actually noted some of the exact same points that my colleagues have indicated about the strengths of your presentation. I like that you opened with Schatzsnyder. You're the only group to talk about party systems and the evolution of the party systems. And that part of your presentation was especially strong and I thought very sophisticated. You gave a really good history of parties, their changing dynamics, what it meant during these different time periods. And I thought that was especially strong. I also appreciated that you raised the issues of the Electoral College, what that means in terms of parties. And also you brought up fundraising, some of the things that parties do. Yeah. And these are really important aspects of the party system, particularly, kind of as they've evolved to the present day. And I really thought that you did a great job with your responses to the questions. I asked the question about, are there any good reasons to have a third party system? As during your presentation, you seemed to be a little bit less favorable toward it. And I thought you gave, good positions on either side of it, a number of good things. And I thought with the idea of the electors and whether presidential electors should remain with the party that they were, or candidate they were pledged to, the faithless elector issue. You expressed, a particular position, but then raised the counter argument, even if you didn't support that yourself. That's a really strong move. So congratulations, great job, and thanks to you and your teacher for being here.
Well done.
Good job, well done. Okay, team, you're welcome at this point to exit the hearing. And that's it for today. So good luck, and good luck in all your future endeavors. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Nice
you.
job,
Thank you
guys.
very much.